What's up, YouTube? Back with another quick video. Today we are going to be discussing the top 10 AWS services in 2023. So, quick disclaimer, this is not my original list. I've just done some research and kind of compiled a list from several different sources of the top services that are used on AWS. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first service is uh, Elastic Cloud Compute, or you may have heard it referenced as EC2. That's usually what people call it. EC2 just goes on to say it's one of the fastest growing cloud computing AWS services. Basically, EC2 is a virtual server in the cloud that you have complete control over. It's highly secure, reliable, and it can host just about any need you have for a server in the cloud. So, and it's relatively cheap to run these. They come in different sizes. I actually have another video out about the different sizes of EC2 instances and the types. If I think about it, I'll put the link in this video for that. But this is just a virtual server in the cloud. So, but it's one of the top used services in AWS. The next service is S3, which stands for simple. I think it's simple secure storage. Um, but basically, this allows you to store tons of data in the cloud for very cheap. S3 supports what they call buckets, and basically the buckets. Well, take a step back. S3 is a global service, so with that being said, any of the bucket names have to be unique. And there, once you get into the console, you'll see there are different parameters or requirements for your naming conventions of the buckets that help to keep it unique. But this is probably one of the cheapest ways to store data in the cloud, which is S3. I'm sure Azure and GCP has a similar service. Not really familiar with those, but I use personally. I've started. I had tons of data on Google Drive, and since S3 storage is so cheap, I've just started migrating all of my data to S3. It's highly secure, replicated, crosses all the needs for storage in the cloud. So, and then it's configurable. If you wanted to, you could even host a static website on there. But this is object-based storage. So the next service is AWS Aurora, and this is Amazon's proprietary database, relational database engine. So you can see here in the text, Aurora is the next addition to this list of top AWS services in demand. It is a MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible relational database with high performance, based off benchmark data. Um, the Aurora database is up to 5 times faster than the standard MySQL database. Um, it's also distributed, fault tolerant, everything you would need for relational database storage in the cloud. AWS Aurora is going to be the way to go, especially if you're using AWS. The next service is Amazon DynamoDB. So this is a basically a serverless NoSQL database. So this will probably be really geared towards storing documents or things of that nature. Uh, Definitely not. So the Aurora database was relational, and the Dynamo database is NoSQL or non-relational database. But it has built-in tools for analytics, high traffic availability, things of that nature. So this is a good option, especially if you're using AWS. So you would want to rely heavily on their services or their proprietary development. So next is Amazon RDS, which is a basically it supports MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server, and MariaDB. So you can basically any one of those database engines you want it to run in the cloud, this would be the way to go. If for some reason you needed a SQL Server database versus using AWS Aurora, this would support that. But I would probably caution you to take a look at maybe converting your application to use Aurora versus SQL from a cost standpoint and a performance standpoint. So, but ultimately the decision is yours. Next, we have Amazon Lambda. You've may hear people refer to it as Lambda functions, but Lambda it falls in the compute category in the AWS Services, and this is basically you can deploy code here without having to worry about provisioning servers like EC2. You don't need anything like that. So basically, you post your whatever code you have, and it supports obviously several different programming languages and frameworks. But let's say, for instance, you had a .NET application, or and let's take a step back. This is more geared towards event-driven development. So as of this video, I believe the execution time that the max execution time that a Lambda function can run at is 15 minutes. I think that's correct. So if you had something that ran a lot longer than that, obviously you wouldn't want to use Lambda, but it is very cost effective and it's easy to deploy. Get your code out there pretty quick. This would probably be ideal ideal if you wanted to spin up a quick proof of concept with maybe an API or something, and you just wanted to see how the code would respond. You could use Lambda, and if you decided you needed something that runs for a greater time span, you may want to use one of their other services like API Gateway, or you could even integrate Lambda with API Gateway. So just food for thought on that. The next service is Amazon VPC. So VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and this is basically your virtual data center in the cloud. So you can provision your own subnets, have security groups that can lock everything down. I mean, it's basically everything you need to run your data center in the cloud. You can provision how traffic comes in and out. You could put, let's say if you have several EC2 instances, you can put them on public versus private subnet, but you design all of that and you lock it down as much or as little as you would like. But I think, in my opinion, just as I've been researching and studying, this was kind of one of the biggest game changers in cloud technology, which was Amazon VPC. So, I mean, it just works, and it's definitely needed if you're doing anything in the cloud. So, having that ability to lock down what resources can get to what, things of that nature. All right, coming in at number 8, we have Cloudfront, which is basically Amazon's CDN, or version of a CDN, so content delivery network. Like I said, this is a global service which offers high performance and security, mainly delivers data at high speeds and low latency. Here, content is delivered to destinations successfully with automated network mapping and intelligent routing mechanisms. So you could use this in addition to cloud. So they have CloudFront, and they have also have edge locations. But CloudFront will be ideal if you have like static media that you're hosting on your website or web application. You want to store that static content here on CloudFront, just because it's kind of like a cache in the cloud. So um, for your application. Next, we have AWS Elastic Beanstalk coming in at number 9. And let's take a read here. This AWS service supports running and managing web applications. Beanstalk allows for the easy deployment of applications from capacity provisioning, load balancing, and auto scaling. In short, this is a quick way to get your application into the cloud without having to provision everything that we mentioned before. So, like your EC2 instances, your VPC, basically, this takes that and puts it out there for you. So, it allows you to spend more time on actual development rather than provisioning the infrastructure to support your application. And then finally, coming in at number 10 is EC2 Auto Scaling. So this service scales computer capacity to meet the demands accurately. It is achieved by adding or removing EC2 instances automatically. So this particular service would be ideal. Let's say if you have a some type of application that has a shopping cart. So we know that typically Black Friday is a probably the busiest shopping day online in the world. So it definitely is in the U.S. So what this allows you to do is, let's say you have a threshold that you set for your application. So let's say you have two EC2 instances that typically run your applications. Let's say maybe the week leading up to Black Friday, you want to scale those up when your peak utilization gets hit. So you could do like a threshold, like 50 or 60%, that says, hey, if my utilization resource gets to this threshold, I want to spin up more EC2 instances to support my application to be able to handle that traffic. And then once maybe you get past Cyber Monday, Tuesday, later on in the week, once that traffic is not as high as it was previously, you can scale those back down. So EC2 Auto Scaling does that for you. That way you aren't paying for unused resources. And this is also big because this is one of the key differences between working or hosting your application in the cloud versus on-premise. With the on-premise data center or setup, you wouldn't be able to just easily turn those instances off. I know you can with VMware and some of the other virtual tooling out there, go in and auto provision, but it's a lot more work than it is to just go in here and say, hey, once my capacity or utilization reaches this threshold, I want to spin up X number of instances. So just something to look at. But that's pretty much it. So like I said, this was just 10 of the most used services in AWS for 2023. I hope you liked the video. If so, drop a comment below. And thank you for watching.